Welcome. We're live. Mike Crawford, Young Jerks. Tonight, so much has happened in the Karen Reed case today. I would have probably spent this whole episode on that, but I have another guest on another topic. But we're definitely going to talk about that later tonight and probably take some phone calls. But before I do that, I want to bring someone up because they're here and got a lot to talk about. And I'm excited about this interview too, because this show has been around almost 10 years. I know a lot of folks that watch us and listen to us are kind of new over the last couple of years, whether it's through medical cannabis, through Lorna McMurray coverage that we did, or more recently with this Karen Reed case. But this show's actually been around under the Young Jerks for almost 10 years. April is supposed to be 10 years. We started off like streaming. We didn't even do YouTube. We didn't even do a video show. And then podcasts for a little while. And then it was streaming on Facebook only and a podcast through different networks and stations. And with COVID, things changed and we had the ability to do it at home and to do it through StreamYard and to kind of change it up again. We used to have a studio and guests in studio and a bunch of people, sidekicks and things like that. So we've been around for quite a bit. And the show's a little different now, but one of the people that came up like 8 years ago hasn't been up on this show since like 8 years ago. And there's a reason for it. It's because we really didn't get along. And a lot of it was about policy and having different opinions and kind of being close at one point, and not even this specific person, but their organization, the Mass Patient Advocacy Alliance. They used to be a big part of the show, the MPAA. They represent patients in Massachusetts, medical patients, cannabis patients. And there were some disagreements. And oftentimes, like we always did, I always have done on this show, we would take difficult stands and even turn down support and organizations, go against organizations like MassCan and MPAA and lose sponsorships, especially from the medical and the cannabis industry. We burned everybody because we wanted to be independent. We were like not 100% the opposite of grifting. We burned more advertisers than we actually had for advertisers. I mean, that's the way this program has always been. And with the MPAA, it kind of got, maybe I took it too far. I don't know. I think I probably did. But there was a reason for it. And lately, they've got kind of a new leader, Jeremiah. He's been there the whole time, but now he's the leader of the organization, Jeremiah MacKinnon. And we kind of made up, because some of the things that they're supporting, we obviously support. And one thing they just supported that we're really happy about and they were successful with. And there's some other things that they haven't been so, successful with and they're working on. And I want to support them on that. And Jeremiah was very open to that. And so we're having him on the show tonight. I'm excited to bring him back on the show. And we go way back. He's got a sign tonight. Vote yes on number 3. This brings me back to 10 years ago with the King of Pot, Michael Malta. Because yes on 3 was the campaign, our last campaign together, Michael and I. And the no on 3 campaign, they attacked Michael and myself. They put us up in press releases. It was hilarious. We knew we won when they weren't attacking the official campaign. They were attacking us because we were so open and getting support for medical cannabis. And we knew we won. And the official campaign, like Matt Simon and them, they didn't even do a campaign because they knew they won. And they knew they won when they saw like how, even what we were doing just for no money was getting so much support. So we knew we won before we even had the vote, and it did win big. And it brings me back to that. So I'm going to bring him up right now because he knows he's been around from the very beginning when we had no medical legal cannabis in Massachusetts. We had no adult use. It was a fight, but we knew we won, didn't we, Jeremiah?
That's right. It's legal for medical and adult now. So we did the hard work. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me on tonight, and I appreciate that introduction. And I definitely wanted to say, yeah, we've seen the transformation of your show. Back when it was in the WEMF building in Cambridge. I kind of got introduced to you through Cannabis Society, and we had our own radio show afterwards. And
oh my God, I forgot all about that. You guys had a show there too.
And I remember coming on your show in 2015. So it's definitely been a long time, but it's glad to be back on.
It's hard to think back. Like, I try not to dwell in the past because, like, I'll miss that EMF building. That was so much fun. Like, the Cambridge and even the Alston one, but the Cambridge one was that was a fun time, wasn't it?
100%. That was so unique and so memorable. I'm so sad that place, didn't continue to do what they were doing. So, but good things, come to an end, of course.
Yeah, this was an art rehearsal, band, studio, recording, duplicating CDs, every type of creative endeavor in the music or entertainment scene, including WEMF radio, where Jeremiah and I both had shows, and a lot of cannabis shows over there too, a lot of music shows. Great network, and the whole station is gone. The building is not owned by the same people, and it's been redeveloped, and all the art's gone. It just sucks. It's not fun. It's like everything in Boston and Cambridge, you name it, that we miss,
No, you hit it right on the head. It was definitely art, because there were so many rooms that I went into that were so different, so eclectic, and everything on the walls. It really was like an art museum. But yeah, that's where we met.
It's all been redeveloped. So tell us about what's going on now, because you guys did have actually tell us who you are, your title with MPAA, and what you got going on, because I know you had a big win and now there's a big battle too. So tell us all about that.
Sure. So I'm Jeremiah MacKinnon, and I'm president and executive director of Massachusetts Patient Advocacy Alliance, the group that worked with the coalition to pass the ballot question in 2012 that helped legalize medical marijuana. And I volunteered with the organization for, I think, about 6 or 7 years. And worked really closely with the executive team on very successful campaigns, like getting instant access to patient registrations and removing the patient fee, and other campaigns. But since Nicole Snow stepped down as president in the end of 2022, the executive board asked me to step in as the new leader of the organization, which I'm so happy to fulfill on, continuing this work for medical marijuana patients. And our organization really has been there every step of the way since the ballot passed, at the original DPH hearings, every interaction with the Cannabis Control Commission through the transfer, and up until today, we remain the voice that really ensures that patients are being represented. And you had referenced a major win, which is that ever since COVID, the commission has allowed telehealth for new patients. The rule was always that a new patient had to go in person to see the doctor or the nurse. And during COVID, of course, interacting in person was, limited. So we wanted to see telehealth visits for both new and renewing patients. The commission issued waivers, and ever since, those waivers have been extended multiple times, and we've advocated for them to be incorporated permanently into their regulations. The waivers were set to expire at the end of 2023, and there really wasn't a lot of word from the commission if they would even have the item on the agenda in December. So we collected a group of patients, rallied, and we actually rented a van and got a group of 8 of us to the commission's headquarters at 9:30 in the morning to hold our signs and tell them not to take away access to telehealth, and make it clear how important it was to access and across the state for patients. So we were successful, and the commission did extend the waivers and actually committed to incorporating a permanent solution into the regulations when they adjust them at their next adjustment. So it really is something that we thank the commission for recognizing, and it was certainly something we were worried about, and we're glad that they took the time to extend the waivers and incorporate it into their future regulations.
That's great. I'm so glad on that, because that's exactly the way I do it now. is through the telehealth. I think it's so much more convenient, and especially for patients, whether they're working like me and busy, or more likely than not just having transportation issues and the pain sometimes in traveling. Like, I know, just having a bad back, sometimes you just don't, I can imagine with other health issues, but just to travel and the expense of it and time and energy, and if you're in pain, it's like, if you can do it at home, it's so much easier. I think it's better for the healthcare system too.
Yeah, and if you think about, patients who are really in need of a caregiver that helps them get to these appointments and stuff, it's not only a burden on the patient, but that caregiver also has to go through that process of bringing the person in person, and it's very challenging to deal with. So I agree, it's really good to incorporate telehealth in, because now at this point, telehealth is equal to in-person care. So we can't act like renewing patients it's okay and new patients it's not. Medicine is practiced through telehealth now globally. So, and the laws changed during COVID as well in Massachusetts to recognize the permanence of telehealth. So we're glad the commission is, changing with the times and not trying to stick to what had originally been written.
See, I've criticized the Cannabis Control Commission a lot in the last year or two about specifically workers and the way that they don't seem to care. But this is a good example of them actually listening. So I give them kudos on this one. I hope they do more of that. I mean, that's what we want to see. And I'll try to be fair with the Cannabis Control Commission. Jeremiah, do you think that's a fair assessment? Like, I'm okay being that way? Or do you think I should just always cheerlead for the CCC like I think they want me to?
Well, I am a member of their advisory board at the Cannabis Control Commission. I'm a member of the Cannabis Advisory Board as president of the NPAA. And so I'm happy to be critical when I need to recommend something to them that is urgent. And obviously, I think you're taking the right tack by not, everybody has to think for themselves, right? So, I think it's fair to reach out to the commission with your concerns, and they do listen, they do hear the feedback. There's obviously a lot going on, but I'm actually the chair of the public health subcommittee on the Cannabis Advisory Board. So the need to protect the health of workers and patients is something that I actually care about a lot. And I do think the regulations need to go far beyond what's in place currently. So, and I know you've been looking at this ongoing issue for a long time.
I had to take a break on it, and I jumped into the Karen Reed stuff, which is just like, I don't know. I am something else, because I was losing my shit, Jeremiah, about the CCC. Like, I was becoming toxic. I had to take a break on it. So this is good to have you back on. And the first thing we're doing is saying good for the CCC, the Cannabis Control Commission, for doing something good. I'll say for once. You won't say for once. I'll say for once. But
yeah, it is good to recognize the work that they did, and that they recognize us. I guess I will say that at that meeting, we had all gotten in the van together and gone to the commission headquarters. So we sent an email as MPA in the morning and said, listen, it would really be nice, because there was going to be a discussion on the delivery regulations, eliminating the 2-driver rule and a lot of other restrictions. And I knew that would probably take a while. So we said, could you possibly accommodate patients and take the discussion on telehealth first? And so they actually did. And so someone had commented on Instagram and said, what do you guys think that the few of you outside of the commission headquarters is going to do, really? And, even though there was 8 of us, they did accommodate us and take us first. And so, the power really is in our voices. And that's what I got into this for, and really am passionate about with MPA, is that direct advocacy and grassroots action does work. Every time I go into the State House and I tell them that I'm a cannabis person, they'll usher me into a room and say, we never hear from cannabis constituents. Exactly. So what do you want to talk about? And so I think we really need to do more, lobbying days on the State House and introducing constituents to their lawmakers. And, if you think about it, the patient population is over 90,000 patients. And that's like the size of Fall River's population. They're one of the largest 10 cities in the state. So, we really do have a large constituency of patients, but kind of like what I said about telehealth, instead of just sticking on the old rules and not looking at it, that's something that I think we need to be, cognizant of with the whole industry, because patients are looking at their program and wanting change from the commission after a few years of the program being the same way. We haven't had a major adjustment in a few years, and there's some topics that
let's talk about that, because it seems like to me, as someone who's had a medical card for years for cancer and a bad back, both major issues in my life, cannabis really has helped me immensely in both factors. I got to tell you, like nothing else. But besides walking and stretching and working out like I do too, and being active, which is very helpful. Not driving in a car back and forth to work an hour each way, which I know a lot of people do, and sitting in an office, which I don't do anymore. So I'm feeling better than ever. And but having said that, the program in Massachusetts for medical cannabis seems kind of going backwards. I don't use my card as often. Mostly I'm buying adult use in Massachusetts from, I want to buy from the better, smaller retailers. I buy stuff like River Run. I like the smaller guys. You really can't find it in medical around me. I'd have to drive an hour each way if I was lucky. And so we end up, a lot of us patients are now paying the adult use tax, which isn't the way the law really intended. So it seems like it is actually going backwards in some respects, even though it's just kind of staying the same. What's going to happen? Like, what can we do? I know you're fighting for this to change it. Someone's already made a comment about it here. I want to bring this up. Says Jeremiah is helping to allow companies like mine to sell to medical. That's what we need. There is no difference, only legal red tape. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I can't buy River Run on the medical side tax-free with the card, which is ridiculous. How can we fix this? What's the holdup? Tell us, right, Jeremiah.
And you were there, you've been an advocate for a long time, so the original process with the Department of Public Health to get a medical marijuana license was crazy. It was so expensive, and it was so selective and restrictive, and we're pretty much operating on those same guidelines today. And there's a memo from the Department of Public Health from 2013 that pretty much says that it was their choice to choose to vertically integrate these dispensaries, and that uncoupling vertical integration would be inappropriate at this time. But if it was a mandate, I would think that they would have said they had no choice to do it. But what I'm referring to as vertical integration is the fact that every medical dispensary from the beginning of the program has had to grow their own cannabis, make their own products, and be the dispensary. So obviously, the only people that can do that are people that have access to capital. And if you don't have access to capital, you need investment, and you need to pay that investment back by passing the cost back on to the patient who's paying for the product. So this isn't really the ideal scenario in terms of giving the best outcome of our medical program. So we want to see it more like the adult use program, where you can get a single license for retail and aren't obligated to do anything else in the supply chain. You can wholesale the products in and just do retail because that's what you have experience in. Or maybe you're just a manufacturer and that's all you want to do, but you want to manufacture high dose medical products. You're limited by the 5 milligram restriction for adult use, but with medical, there's no specific limit. So you could make different dosage products and sell them to medical dispensaries. So Massachusetts Patient Advocacy Alliance has been supporting this concept at least since 2018, trying to get the commission to acknowledge that it's time to align the adult use licensing and medical licensing, so that way more people can add medical, like you're saying. And what is the holdup? I think the comment actually that does justice, because it is red tape. Because if you think about it, it's just hooking up to the patient portal. So that way the provider can monitor the patient's purchases and their treatment plan. So why can't any store hook up to it except for these arbitrary rules? And thankfully, I do have a piece of information to share, is that the Joint Committee on Cannabis Policy this session has passed the bill that would eliminate the vertical integration requirement out of committee favorably. And we're looking to see where that lands, but we're happy to see the Joint Committee recognize this as a issue that should be looked at more.
Absolutely. Who do we talk to? Like, is there anyone, like state reps that are sponsoring it that need to hear about it, or just contact your state rep? How does that work?
Unfortunately, we don't know where the bill was sent yet, because like every bill in the State House pretty much just got moved to a different committee in the last week or two. So there's a lot of paper to be filed in different places, but we will find out where the committee is that has the bill, and we'll be able to, try to make inroads with that committee and explain to them how important this is to get passed this time, because this bill has actually been introduced 3 times in the past 3 sessions, past 2 sessions and this session. So, there's momentum on it. This is actually the bill that had the most co-sponsors of any bill before the Joint Committee this year. It had about, I think it was 17 or 18 lawmakers in total. So, and also last February, the Boston Globe wrote an editorial that supported these efforts to eliminate vertical integration. So, there's definitely a lot of support behind it. It's a common sense thing, but unfortunately, I feel like it's like the legislature and the commission is who's going to blink first on this. And
I don't get it. They need to get their head out of their bum, because this helps workers, this helps consumers, this helps small business, like local small business. Like, that's who we're talking about here. We're not talking about the big cannabis guys are the only ones that are able to be medical right now. And it's really unfortunate. And we need to allow everybody that wants to do medical to be able to do it, just like they do adult use. Why is adult use easier? It shouldn't be that much easier. It should be pretty much the same thing. I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah, the incentives are backwards. It's harder to be medical. In fact, if you think about it, the existing medical dispensaries, there's no mechanism for existing adult use businesses to go medical.
Yeah.
So it's really unfair. And we want to see equity in both the adult use and medical cannabis industry. And right now, if you want to know how many equity businesses are in the medical marijuana space, it's 0. The commission will, go over their data every month, but the glaring issue here, I think, is that there's no equity participants operating medical cannabis businesses, and the commission really hasn't incorporated the mandate to have equity into the medical program. And it concerns patients. It concerns me personally. I feel like every time they make an announcement that they hit another $1 billion in sales in the adult use industry, but that we don't think about at the same time that there's actually been $1 billion in sales and more in the medical industry, and they didn't really announce that
because there was no taxes on it. That's the other key. If you're a Republican and you're about taxes, like, why should any medical user get gouged for taxes when clearly the law said no taxes? Like, that's the new loophole. They're charging me tax now. I don't know. And it's a really high tax too. The tax is outrageous. Let's put it that way. It's over 20%. So, but yeah, someone says all cannabis is medicinal. Let's stop the greed and help those in need. That's exactly what I think too. But with a medical card, those people are medical. I mean, we know for sure. So we got to at least stop the greed with the people that have a card. I agree 100% with that comment. What do you think, Jeremiah?
100%. I mean, that $1 billion that's been made in medical over the past 4 years only went to, I think it's something like 60 or so companies. And a lot of them are national companies. And as you said, you are supporting stores that are locally owned and brands that are locally owned. And these brands should have a shot. These stores should have a shot to be medical and actually provide patients in the community with the benefits of the medical program that we fought for. And, tax-free access is a big deal. And, these medical dispensaries are supposed to, they're obligated to have hardship discounts. And a lot of them have great deals for all sorts of other groups, seniors, veterans, pediatric, even those who have life-limiting illnesses, large discounts. So, the savings can be over, 70% if you're, in those groups. So, there's definitely benefit in being in the program, but without the stores to take the demand, we're not going to get more patients enrolling in the program if they don't have dispensaries anywhere near them. And I'm hearing for a lot of patients, there's 5 rec stores in my town and not one medical. So I have to travel quite far.
Or like my area. I mean, I think we live in a similar area. There's probably 1 or 2 medical. Oh, maybe 3 now. But there's like 10 adult use. and the three medical suck, like, in my opinion. Like, there's certain medical, I'm sure there might be a few that are good, but I just don't like the ones near me. I mean, I don't know about you. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what you get when you are saying you have to be a jack of all trades is people who are not necessarily specialists in cultivation. And so if you had somebody who is a grower from maybe the legacy market that is actually able to get into a cultivation license and make medical strains, I would definitely think that, and CBD offerings, and we're hearing that some patients are not able to get even high dose edibles at some dispensaries that are medical, and if they're the only ones who are allowed to make the high
Yeah.
dose edibles,
Like,
and they're
even
not
like,
there.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because, like, even like, a lot of times patients come at me for Rick Simpson oil. I don't see that in the medical dispensaries around me. Do you? I mean, I know it's up in Maine. It's either I send them to, like you said, legacy market people that I really don't know, or maybe the CBD hemp guys, who knows, or send them to Maine. I mean, like, a lot of the legal, even legal and medical, but especially medical, I don't even see that stuff. Do you see that kind of
I
product there?
do, but
It's
it's
wicked
hard
expensive
to
too,
go
though,
through the
right?
menus at all these places as well. So if it's not available in your area or your local store that you're familiar with, it's hard to kind of go through the lists of weed map listings and find the product that you're looking for. And I think that that I see the comment "jack of all trades, master of none," and I agree with that, because we have to let the people who are specialists do what they're good at. And if they want to serve their community medical with tax-free, like veterans, for example, veteran-owned businesses, would imagine that they don't want to charge taxes to their community, essentially, and would like to do as much to help alleviate any of their medical conditions by offering as low a price as possible, that works for their business. So and like I had mentioned about the equity side is, we don't have equity in medical cannabis. One of the regulations that continues to exist is from the DPH era, which is that in order to apply for a medical marijuana license, you have to also have $500,000 in liquid cash sitting in a bank account. So, that probably is number one reason why nobody whose equity is applying for a medical license, because they had to create the social equity loan fund in order to try to encourage and help more businesses even get funding. So, and
How much is it for adult use? So, because this is like, even I remember back in the day, someone had to move the money because the Fed said you couldn't even keep it in this bank account or something like that. The bank decided, and they lost their license over that. It was ridiculous. Very early on, before they even had the license, they were like one of those provisionals before you got it. But now it's $500 million, which is a lot of money. What is the limit? Like, what do you have for a medical license? You need to have $500,000 in a bank account. What do you need for adult use?
I think they have some regulation that pretty much says that you have to demonstrate that you have capital sufficient to move through the process. And I don't think it's as strict. So I remember being there in the early days when the commission was going over this, and they pretty much said that they wanted to still make sure that the people who are applying actually have funding, but that they weren't going to pretty much hold them to any specific number. It's just that if it was reasonable enough to seem like they were able to move forward. So
A Facebook user said $0. I think that's funny. Maybe. I'm sure there's some equity applicants that are probably doing that.
well, that actually reminds me of one of the things that I'm interested in, which is to see that equity applicants should get free connection to the medical
Exactly.
program.
A Facebook user, also maybe the same one, wrote, they care more about insurance and bond. Probably what the adult use. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because they don't want to see the businesses have to go through, all that wrap up of closing the business and all that. So, but with medical, it is important to, and we've seen I can't remember very many medical that have closed. And so, we're lucky because ever since the adult use started, we've actually had a 60% increase in the enrollment of the medical program, whereas most other states see a decrease in medical patients when adult use comes online. So we're bucking the trend, but at the same time, we're not allowing the industry to essentially expand to its full potential. Patients like you are, saying that the recreational dispensary is offering lower prices with the tax than their medical dispensary, and
Right.
this is why we want to
And
open up.
not even that, I would say better product. Like, that's the most important thing for me is quality. I
Oh,
want River Run because they're the small micro grow. Like, I want the micro grows. Like, and you can't get a micro grow, like you said, an adult use. And it, like you said, specialist. Someone else might want dabs or something else. I like the cannabis flower. I consume that. And so I want the best, smallest local grow. And I trust them. I trust River Run Gardens. I mean, I'm sure there are other brands too. There's a bunch of micro grows, smaller companies that grow. That doesn't exist on the on the medical side, which seems crazy because you think smaller is better on the medical side too, right?
Right, but with all the money that's going into investing, into this property and everything, it's more about just getting started than maybe having the best product, and so, that's where patients are losing out. And I feel like some of the better cultivators are some of the adult use ones, and thankfully, we are able to see those products end up on medical shelves. But
Some, if you're lucky, if they
right,
have both licenses, but yeah, it's
and how
those are
fair.
unicorns. If you be very lucky if you're able to get that. That's like, yeah, you
Yeah,
can do it though. It's possible.
it definitely is, but it should be much easier for businesses to just sell to patients, and we really want to see the commission act on this in this year, because we've pretty much waited long enough to hear and why this is not, why they're not interested in moving this, or what's stopping them. There was a lot of advocacy that went into Chapter 180, and the commission themselves said we want to regulate host agreements, we want to reform social consumption. But, where is their interest in making sure that medical is equitable, or that patients continue to have access to those growers, those small retailers, and, be able to actually support equity businesses? Because the adult use market's actually getting very competitive, and there's a lot of competition that could be had in the medical market. So patients can win, businesses can have more customers, and build a better brand, and do a better job perhaps than the dispensary that's existed before them. So unfortunately, the commission, they did actually, I'll give them the respect that they did address vertical integration in 2020. They did have a discussion during a regulatory adjustment, and what they said at the time was that they wanted to give the topic the respect that it deserves by focusing on it in the next regulatory adjustment. But when it came time for the next regulatory adjustment, which was the Chapter 180 update, like I say, they didn't update the things like the $500,000 requirement, and they didn't take out the fact that agent fees for medical is $500, but for adult use it's $50.
Oh
So
my God,
there are
that's
barriers in
ridiculous.
place that are the commission's barriers that they've left in place, even though Chapter 180 has mandated that medical is incorporated into the equity mandate. And most concerning, I think, to me, which I haven't really discussed a lot, but it's definitely on my mind, is that there's now regulations that require local municipal equity. And the piece that's concerning is that with these restrictions in place, like the $500,000 requirement, and the fact that you have to be vertically integrated, and the fact we've seen no equity licenses apply for medical at this point, those local municipal policies essentially want to prioritize or make exclusive equity medical businesses. But if there's never going to be a medical equity business, then it pretty much shuts the door behind the existing operators. And we want to see there actually be social equity operators that are operating medical marijuana businesses. And I'm sure that there'd be retailers today who'd love to connect to the system. So
Exactly.
I'm not sure where the disconnect is, but the legislature is looking at this and it's moving forward. But it is crazy in the advocacy world to try to get something that what seems common sense to the commission. So
Hopefully, let's get a couple vans. on the next like meeting that we have to push them on this, because like you said, $500 versus 50 like per agent. So that's like employees. If they have employees, every time an employee gets hired, they have to pay this fee. The employer does, and it's $500 for a new medical worker for them. They have to pay the state to register them. And with this is annual. Are they renewable every year? Is that what it is? So
I think it's an annual fee.
yeah. So every year the state is getting 500 per worker for medical, but only 50 for adult use. If that's backwards, we should be charging 500 for adult use with all the tax money. Well, I don't know, but it's just like, it's crazy. It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It really defeats the purpose of the program. We're trying to keep low cost. That's why it's tax free for medical patients. We're trying to provide low cost medicine to patients, and they're charging these huge state fees. It's like, what is that? Is that a backward tax? What is that? That's crazy to me.
Right. Like, it's interesting that the Social Equity Loan Fund, it's great that they are able to grant loans and funds to MTCs, medical dispensaries who are social equity. But, should the commission really be the one who, if there isn't a social equity applicant who applies to the loan fund, be the one who's receiving the money? It's going back to the commission when they could just make their fees lower and not have to put equity applicants in the situation where they have to ask the loan fund for money to pay for their license. It's just,
it's insane. It is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, you need a loan from us to pay for our fees. I mean, that's what this is. It's unbelievable.
Right. And, they did very little to, make it more equitable in their most recent adjustment mandated by Chapter 180. And so, that's where I say we're really looking for action, either through the legislature or the commission. But I like your comment. We'll get some more vans, and we'll really, make it clear that, why have to go through another legislative session or another regulatory adjustment. They had made a commitment at the end of their 2020 regulatory adjustment to give this the time and focus it deserved. And I haven't seen the evidence of that yet. And I hope that they, are willing to have the discussion soon that this is an important topic to them. And, there are applicants out there who, or, operators too, that maybe they haven't been able to get going because of this restriction. And instead of, being vertically integrated, maybe they already own a property that's zoned for retail, but now because of the vertical integration, they'll never get the chance to open it because, it's crazy. But, that's what we're doing, is to continue to fight for patients and say, we need a medical program that actually serves their needs. There's very little access out on Cape Cod and the Berkshires. And so some of those businesses out there would potentially really benefit access for patients, in those areas that are lacking.
I can't imagine. I mean, I live in a populated area and there's not enough choice. So I can't imagine living in a much more place that's not at like the, eastern part of the state. We got a Facebook user who said, "Thank you for this episode." You're welcome. Right, Jeremiah? You're welcome for us doing this for this viewer on Facebook. Yes.
Yeah, every day and even when I'm not working on this on the weekend, I'm still thinking about this and how I'm going to try to, make an impact. And so, like I said, it's even if it's 8 of us at a commission meeting, it makes an impact. So, every voice on this bill or any policy that we're looking at is important. And, just going back to where it said, the Facebook comment said it was red tape. I had recently had a conversation with the commission about social consumption from the patient angle. And they had asked me, what do you want to see? And I said, really all I want to see, and I think patients would agree, is tax-free access at the social consumption venue. And of course, no silly edible restrictions.
No silly what kind of restrictions?
No edible restrictions that are unreasonable.
Okay.
I said silly, but but yeah, they currently it's at like 20 milligrams. So it's like, obviously that's for some people not going to be enough they'd be interested in, but clearly some patients that would be more than enough. So, but what's to stopping a social equity applicant from being able to, retail medical cannabis at their social consumption establishment? Only this barrier of vertical integration. And we could very easily let them hook up to the system if we had the will to do so. And I think the commission really does have the obligation to do it. So that's what we're trying to hold them accountable for. And like you had asked, are you fair to criticize them every once in a while? Yes, you are, because they do things sometimes that warrant us to hold them accountable.
Now, your website is Compassion for Patients.
Yes, compassionforpatients.com.
So people want to get involved and support everything that we're talking about tonight, because there's going to be a campaign here coming up. And I definitely hope you come back, like when you have that bill, and we can start like figuring out who we can call and like really do it on the show. Just get people to get the word out and start calling their reps and the Cannabis Control Commission. Like they both can make change on this, right? It's not just one or the other. Like one can trump. Kind of a race to see who's the smartest. Is it the State House or is it a Cannabis Control Commission? What do you think?
That's a fair point. And I think it is true that we have to send our feedback to the commission and the legislature. We actually started a postcard campaign in November at the Harvest Cup. And by the end of it, we had 60 or more than 60 postcards written to the chair of the Cannabis Policy Committee at the legislature. And I think a postcard is a perfect enough size that someone can write a personal message and it doesn't take up too much of their time, and a stamp is not that expensive. So I think this time we'll have more messages going to the commission as well as the legislature.
Oh, I'm smiling so much about the postcard because it's so funny. Like I've been doing activism and campaigns, obviously a long time, like you have, Jeremiah. And I can remember one of the first wins was a postcard. It was about music, actually, too. It was about radio and music. And let's just say we helped the musicians win by sending those goddamn suits postcards until they couldn't take it anymore. They couldn't take the postcards anymore. And they gave us all the local music for a little while on all the radio stations in Boston. It was a great moment.
That's right. I mean, if you put yourself in their shoes, right, you're getting dozens and hundreds of postcards. What are you going to do?
Especially when they're from bands too. Like you're seeing, and people even in the industry and restaurants and guitar studios. It's like you got to find your market. I know that you do that in cannabis, which is when they're that's what we need. We need everyone that loves cannabis, medical patients, shops, everyone to fill out these postcards and send a bunch more this year. Like that's what I want to see. Cannabis Control Commission, let me know. I'll send my own postcards too, Jeremiah. I love this. This is exactly what needs to happen here.
Definitely. I mean, at this point, everything's on the table. Exclusivity for equity applicants. Making it free for them. A combination of multiple factors. We don't want to see anything happen where we remove vertical integration and it creates more of a market that's unfair. So in the bill, it does actually point out that the commission would have the power to do whatever they needed to do to make it an equitable market. So we really want to see them do something that protects patients and expands their access, but also gives equity the chance to be medical, as well as other business types. Like I had mentioned, veterans definitely deserve the chance to be involved in that.
Now, we just had a comment from a Facebook user about MacKinnon, which I had mentioned earlier. It's really how I started my activism way back. So for me, it's like where I got started in a lot of this. So I love MacKinnon and a lot of respects, even, when I was criticizing them back a few years ago. But I'm going to read the comment, but I want to say that, and I want to ask a follow-up question based on the comment too. And the follow-up question to you, Jeremiah, because I feel like I'm happy what I just saw in the MacKinnon election. It seems like a lot of more positive voices in the community have joined MacKinnon in terms of being board directors, which I like to see. It seems like a much stronger board. I'm looking forward to see what MacKinnon does this year and going forward, more so than I have in the last few years. So I hope I'm right on that. And I'm going to read the Facebook user comment. They say, I'm sure MacKinnon would like more info on this and potentially help moving forward. What do you think about what I said and about that comment too, Jeremiah?
I'm definitely supportive of that. I mean, MacKinnon really did lead the way in many ways for us to continue to have advocacy as the center of our mission. And, I want to just point out that MPA went to the Freedom Rally last year, and we were the only nonprofit, I think, that showed up. And, we were happy to be there, and I'd be happy to it's actually on my to-do list to reach out to MassCan because our voices are strong, and they're another group that's really lended their voice to legalization and policies that make sense. And so there's a few bills that made it out of the committee recently, including one that was for medical marijuana employment protection, which I think that would be another great thing for us to kind of, group together on, because I think everybody can agree on that medical patients really shouldn't be in any way, wronged for using medicine, not on the workplace, but, so that would be
should
great.
be a civil right. It should be a civil right, just like anything else. It's like, so that's good that you're, MassCan too. It's
And I agree about, sorry, I didn't touch
go
on your point, that the new leadership over at the MassCan, their recent election, it does look promising. So I look forward to interacting with them and hope we can do some really good stuff. Because for a while, I feel like we had kind of distracted and from the advocacy. So we have to get back focused on making some big impact.
There was a lot of issues and drama with MassCan the last a bunch of years, but I feel like last year was a good year too. I finally went to the Freedom Rally. I saw you. We took a picture. It felt really good. Like I was like, this year feels like I'm like getting over MassCan issues and MPA, and like all the adults are taking over, and we're just going to work together now. And to see the election, to see a lot of new people that we know, like we know who these folks are, but they're new to stepping up on the board of directors of MassCan. I want to congratulate all the new board directors and hope they have the best year this year. I want to see MassCan kick ass again. Like when I was running it, like we used to, we kicked ass for a number of years. I got to admit it. Like there was just a feeling, and I'm not just saying it because of me. It's just because of just the time. It's just like who was involved, and I think a lot of that's been kind of washed away because so many people got involved in other things like businesses, getting involved in the industry and things like that. But I feel like it's coming back, and I'm excited to see. And that's why I'm happy to have you here tonight, Jeremiah. I think there was something else too that you wanted to talk about medical patients and parks, the federal park, something going on. What was that about?
Yeah. So what was interesting, last fall, we found out, I was doing some research, in the Department of Conservation and Recreation is the state parks agency in Massachusetts. So their regulations actually from 2014 say that, and it's still in effect today, no person can possess cannabis at the state park except if it's for medical use. So it's great that patients who may be a renter and not have a place to consume their medicine, and maybe they live along the Charles River, which is a lot of the time DCR property, can essentially feel that that's a spot for them to be safe and use their cannabis. And so MPA is really interested in visiting some state parks and meeting some patients, and maybe going on a little trail hike and sitting on the benches and enjoying our medicine. So we look forward to doing that when the weather gets better, and announcing that. And
what kind of parks do you think you might hit? Anything you're looking at right now? Like, because
we definitely want to do statewide and hit a lot of different places. But I know there's a few spots in the North Shore, like maybe Bradley Palmer State Park, or
where's that one?
That's like in the Essex Ipswich area, or
okay.
And then there's a whole Hawkington State Park is also a really nice area, and there's some on the South Shore that I've kind of written down. So we want to be able to engage in our Western Mass era community as well, and so that feels fun, and I'm excited that we'll be able to meet new people and kind of build a fellowship where we can all be like-minded and just enjoy each other's company and work on the advocacy.
Awesome. Anything else you wanted to talk about tonight too?
Sure. There's one other thing that we do that we spend a lot of time on, and it's really important to us, which is a lot of patients can't afford the cost to get certified by the doctor every year. Some people face sudden unexpected unemployment. All sorts of issues. And so we have a program called Cannabis Care Connect, and it's on our website, where patients can apply to get their medical card. We can give them a referral to a doctor who offers a free certification, or a $50 certification or a $75 certification. There's a limited number of free certifications, so there's like a 4 to 6 week wait for free certifications. But a lot of our 50s and 75s are available immediately, and every month we get new certification referrals that we can offer. And it's really been something that has happened outside of the pandemic, ever since the pandemic, and it's a really helpful program for patients and makes it so they can continue to have their card be active. So just wanted to share that resource, and that's on our website at compassionforpatients.com/help. So
I hope everyone got that. You can get discounted medical recommendations to doctors to get your recommendation through Massachusetts, through compassionforpatients.com. I know you gave me some that I handed out too at the Freedom Rally. So those are really cool to have to hand out to people.
Yeah, people say sometimes to me, "Oh, I just paid $150," and all day we can help people with 75s. So, we want to help make sure the cost of the card isn't stopping anybody from getting it. And, the tax is a benefit, but there's also so many discounts and, $50 off 100 at so many dispensaries that, there's a lot of savings out there for patients. So we're happy to help them get their card. And, we look forward to helping more patients understand that how much money they can save, and that, we can hopefully get some more stores to offer medical.
Sorry about that beeping. I just turned on the phone lines. If anyone wants to call in, they can. 978-560-3155. It's weird that they haven't found a way to turn off your buzzer on this. I just, even if I turn it off, it still goes. But sorry about that. That's when someone's texting. I'm on a text chain too, so that means I get them all the time. But if anyone wants to call, this is your opportunity. Especially the trolls, you can try calling in too, because usually you can't get through. The lines are filled up. But tonight you can get through 978-560-3155, because we're not talking about the Karen Reed stuff right now, but we might in a few minutes. So
I know I wouldn't know what to say. I'm sorry if that was.
They'll call to yell at me. There's a few, maybe not, but yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming. Oh, now see, this is driving me nuts. This phone thing. It's ridiculous. I gotta say, stop texting me. How do I don't even know. I'm looking at it right now. But Jeremiah, thank you so much for being here tonight. Tell us your website one more time. Compassionforpatients.com.
Yep, compassionforpatients.com. And definitely sign up for our newsletter so you can stay tuned with our updates on the events we're going to hold, and the updates on the bills. And definitely, if you need help with your certification or any help, just give us a buzz and we'll help you out. So thank you, Mike. I really appreciate you inviting me on, and look forward to coming back on sometime to share more updates and let you know what we're doing.
And thank you for the sign too, bringing the vote yes on 3. I've tried to get back into history of the show too. Like I feel like I want to do more of that, bring up people from the past. And so this was like a double good to have you back on. Did you ever think you'd be number one? Before I let you go, is there any other show that you could say that you came back after 8 years, after kind of your organization was like, we were at war, like you're back 8 years later and it feels good, doesn't it? Like any other show that would be the case?
I can't think of another show that would, be willing to move past the arguments and look at the fact that we came together because we are interested in this same thing, which is, reforming our cannabis laws and really making common sense, policies. So I think that's where it all started. And I think that's probably
where it's ended. Yeah. Sometimes you have some bumps along the way. It's like, it is what it is. It's like, I feel like we have common interests and we want the same thing. And it's so obvious now. So like, let's do it. Like, let's get this shit done. I'm down. I'm glad you came on, Jeremiah. I'm really happy about it. And I'm glad you brought up yes on 3, because that's the history again, that a lot of people we didn't know. A lot of people didn't think we would ever win decrim, medical, or legal. I actually was the first one. I'm very excited about this. I wrote 2008 decrim, 2012 medical, 2016 legal. They put that on a t-shirt for MassCan. I was the first one to write that down. And that's what happened. Like I think a lot of us knew that was going to happen, but I actually put it in writing. That was like a little slogan I did, and it's exactly what happened. This was 2012, yes on 3, and I love that I could bring up Michael Malta tonight because that was my boy, and that was our last campaign together. So, and he was all about the medical, like just amazing time. You were there too, right, Jeremiah? You were there throughout the whole thing. You were probably starting back then, right?
I only got into it in the end of 2024, so I was a little late. I didn't get to participate or vote even at that point. I was too young.
You were too young back then.
I got to vote for yes on 4, though.
See, I feel like you've been around forever. You really have, but I mean, because that's a lifetime too. But like
Yes.
I forget how young people are. It's funny. Like yeah.
It's
Oh
been
man,
a
the
fun
baby boomers look at me as being young still. So and the World War II vets, forget it. Like when I first came into the movement, it was all baby boomers running it. They were just like, they hated us kids. Now I'm an old man now. You're getting old too, right, Jeremiah?
I know, right? I'm almost 30 in a year or two, which is kind of crazy. So
Now you're making me feel really old. Well, I want to thank you so much, young man. You're a young 30-year-old for coming on, Jeremiah MacKinnon. He's the president of the MPAA. Check him out, compassionforpatients.com. Thank you so much, Jeremiah.
Thank you. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
You too. And we're the Young Jerks, and it was really good to have him tonight, Jeremiah, back on the show after 8 years. After 8 years. I want to talk about Karen Reed because it got a little crazy today. I don't know if people saw this. Obviously, a lot of you did. Some of you watching on our channel. There was a Karen Reed hearing today. We didn't think there would be one because the defense and the prosecution both agreed on something. They wanted to delay today's hearing. And then the judge, Beverly Canone, didn't delay the hearing. So they had the hearing and only a few things got decided. It was kind of uneventful for the most part, but it was still kind of interesting because it seems like we may know in a couple days about what the feds. No, actually, I don't even know. It seems like the defense and the prosecution will find out in a couple days what the feds are releasing. Will we ever find out? I don't know. It's crazy now when you're looking at the more details of today, but not much really happened. But outside the courtroom, it was kind of a jackass moment. So we may play, you know what? I think I'm going to play some of that. If anyone wants to call in and talk about it, 978-560-3155. You can do so tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit of what happened today. Maybe I'll talk about it too. Let's see if we can get it up. There it is.
Yes, yes.
You're beautiful, Karen.
See, I don't even have to say his name. I didn't even say his name. There's the comment. Grant was a dope. LOL. Yeah, he was a dope today.
I think it goes without saying you have a lot of people loving you right now, Karen.
Love you, Karen. Love you, honey. Thank you.
Hey!
Let's go get free Karen Reed. 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 Free Karen Reed.
How you doing, guys? Hi, guys.
I had spoken to Trooper Proctor in regard to his communications. If they haven't been received by the clerk's office yet, then I will ensure that they are
Forthwith.
forthwith. Yeah.
Forthwith.
Okay. All right. And the Verizon
After 2
records
years.
that were ordered. What do you know about that, Mr. Lally? Any information on that?
I don't.
Okay, Mr. McDermott, this is the one that Verizon sent the wrong records.
That's correct.
All right, and you followed up with them.
I did follow up with them, and they were.
All right, here's a good comment from Jules. She says, all Grant did was ask questions, and these free Karen Reed people harassed and made fun of him the whole time. Why is it okay for Aiden to follow and ask questions, but no one else? Aiden yells and calls names, which is what Grant did today. So that I think that's the point, actually, is that it's okay for Grant to want to be Turtle Boy. That's based, it's so funny. For the last couple of years, a lot of people who've been following us, they all said to me privately and publicly, dude wants to be you. And I think that was true. And I think now Grant, it's obvious to me now, Grant wants to be Turtle Boy now. So he's doing this exact same thing that they have Aiden locked up in jail over. Grant's doing the same thing, and it's okay now, Jules. Just a different, that's the point. I threw it back at Grant. It looked like assault because he was yelling at Chrissy Mello. He got so in her face, he had to hear his hand over and over. If you like, we turned down the volume and just played a few seconds of it at the end of this video, which you'll see. He's just chopping, coming so close to hitting her in the head. It was really aggressive. And then he was swearing at her. I didn't see Aiden doing this to people. I didn't see coming inches from her nose. Chrissy is no shrinking violet, though. So I will say that. I think if she got if she got scared, she would have done something. I really think you could tell. But I just think it's ridiculous, Jules. Here's another comment. Grant should be thanking Turtle Boy for fighting the right to follow someone to ask questions. Free press. Exactly. Why is it okay for Grant, but not Turtle Boy? Yeah, we just posted that from Jules. But and you know what? It's funny, like when Tom and them say something to Grant, I think that's their right to talk back to him. Especially Joe. Like if it was me, I'd be asking Grant questions. I think that's really actually, what I would have done. So let's play more of this.
They were going to fix the situation. I don't know if there's a cell phone record received from Verizon on January 25th, but that was probably the first one that was incorrect, correct?
It was.
Okay.
Actually, I want to put this up too. Jules says, no, it's not the same. Grant doesn't call people murderers. Actually, that's not true. Grant actually told a bunch of my friends from MacKinnon that I killed my friend. So I want you to think about that too. Like he actually did that. I've heard from multiple sources, like many people. So think about that. From Jules. Think about the irony of your statement, and then I can come back with the truth. That's who you're dealing with.
All right.
And for the record, Ms. Little did call Verizon on January 25th. As soon as we received those records, that was the first time we did receive them.
Okay. So, Ms. Little, is that what you wanted to address?
Yes, Your Honor. As you know, at the last court date, we had discussed at sidebar what the status of those records were. We did get a copy of the court order. I was able to follow up with Verizon. It looks like they were sent to the court actually back in November of last year. The date of that letter was, I believe, late November. Once we received the records, it looked like they were from the incorrect.
I also want to mention to Jules, I don't have a problem with Grant asking Karen Reed questions either. I had no issue with that. I had no issue with Tom and them trying to interrupt him and talk over him. That's their free speech too. What I had an issue was when Grant was chopping at that lady. That was like bizarro. Like that is over the line. I thought he was going to hit her. He came really close to hitting her in the head. He was really animated.
user. I was able to call the law enforcement and court number to
Okay.
speak with them about that.
Okay.
They did acknowledge that there was a mistake on their end, but they asked that the court clerk follow up with them because I was not an authorized person to
Okay.
discuss those matters.
All
And
right.
I know that Jim very quickly reached out to follow up with them.
Yeah.
And I did, yeah, thank you.
All right. So we can double check that perhaps, Mr. McDermott.
I just did check. I haven't received anything yet, but I can follow up tomorrow.
All right. Great. All right. So that moves us to the DNA, Bodhi technology. Let's talk about that first. Mr. Lally, that was to be expedited. What's the information we have from them?
So that is really the only issue and the reason that it's a joint motion to continue from
He sighs every time. That was supposed to be expedited. Where's the expedited, Lally? Even Bev is just tired of
my
this
perspective.
BS.
I don't oppose the motion, but the reason that it's a joint request from my end. So where we stand, I spoke with someone from Bodhi yesterday,
Okay.
and really what I had said to Mr. Yannetti, but it didn't get encapsulated within the motion, is there the two sort of different sets of testing that are going on. So there's the hair sample with the mitochondrial DNA testing, and then there's the taillight evidence with regard to the troopers' samples that they submitted as well. So with reference to both of those samples, I anticipate initially what I was told, even with the 8-week rush expedited return, was sometime around the 3rd week of March or something like that. And so that was in part why
It's a lot more than 8 weeks.
well, it's 8 weeks from the date that they received it. So not, and there was some delays in regard to that as far as whether or not there was going to be any observation of testing and collecting samples, submitting the samples. So it's been a bit of an arduous process. But the point, the further point of clarity that I received yesterday is that they expect
Anyone needs a nap. Listen to this guy.
Their expectation is that that testing should be completed the 1st week of March now, with regard to both sets.
The first week in
My
March?
issue, though, sort of ancillary to that is, and I'm not faulting counsel for this, but I have no reciprocal discovery in this case. And my expectation is that I may be receiving some, if not a voluminous amount. I can't file a certificate of compliance and a motion for reciprocal discovery under the rules, as the court is well aware, until I've completed my discovery obligations, which I won't be able to do until we get to that 1st week of March when I get the DNA reports. So that is my reason for looking to push the trial date out a little bit in order to be able to satisfy my discovery obligations, file the motion for reciprocal discovery, and give counsel at least some reasonable amount of time to provide whatever it is they have, of which I just don't know.
All right. So while we're talking about DNA, Mr. Yannetti, do we need to be concerned about canine DNA? Where do we stand with that?
No, I think this is the only outstanding DNA issue.
Okay. So, all right. So we're not dealing with canine
No.
DNA? All right. All right. So Mr. McDermott will help us out here tomorrow. Mr. Lally will make any edits that he's suggesting to the protective order, and that will go out no later than tomorrow.
Yes.
So it sounds like, and 1st week of March, let's keep on them and see if we can get that DNA discovery before then. So what I'm going to do is let's keep that February 26th date. We still have the motion to dismiss and the motion for the DA's office to, let me get it right, motion for sanctions and disqualification, the DA's office.
Okay, can I be heard on that, Your Honor, please?
For, heard on what, scheduling?
On the February 26th date.
So on just let me finish.
Of course.
So February 26th will be on the motion to dismiss.
The motion to dismiss only.
Yes, I said we still have 2 outstanding. It'll be the motion to dismiss that date. And I'll hear where you're at on the motion for disqualification on that date.
I see. So I think the only issue with regard to February 26th is that's 1 week from Monday.
Right.
The Commonwealth has indicated that they anticipate filing response briefs to our motions and our memorandum. I would assert that we should be given the opportunity to file reply briefs to their response briefs. And our objection to that date is there's not enough time to get all of that done by February 26th. And the issue should be fully briefed so that both sides have had their opportunity to fully brief it, and the court has an opportunity to review the briefs prior to taking the bench on February 26th.
It's an Odell motion, right?
Well, yes, Odell, yes.
Yeah, so it's an Odell motion. I have your motion and the attachments, police reports. I have that thumb drive with all of the grand jury minutes on it. Mr. Lally, you're going to file an opposition when? Ms. McLaughlin, when is that opposition? When can we have, Mr. Lally's on trial. Can you help us out with that, Ms. McLaughlin?
Yes, Your Honor. I anticipate having one motion filed today in regards to the disqualification and sanction motion.
Okay.
Probably need a few days, a week or so to get the motion to dismiss done.
Let's do it by next Wednesday. All right. And then you can have something, an opposition to an opposition or a reply to an opposition on an Odell motion. 2 days, Mr. Yannetti. You can have something by next Friday. So the hearing will be on the 26th.
Okay,
right?
what time, Judge?
Jim, what time is it scheduled? Whatever time it's already scheduled for. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, Jim, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
February 26th. Next hearing, 2 p.m. I love Jules' latest comment. You're an effing fraud. And you'll be going down with Aiden. Mark my words. Have a nice life, you lying ass grifter. I think that's a timeout. We'll put her in timeout for a little bit. There's your dude. They're unhinged, Mike. That's exactly it, too. It's like everyone has one of those friends where they get in fights with people, and then they want their other friends to back them in their fights with their common friends. That's how they are. It's like they have a problem with Aiden, so anybody that supports Karen Reed or this case or Aiden in any way is now a bad person. And it's because, obviously, he wasn't nice to them. She told you, right? I mean, she told us in her comment. It's about Aiden. They are unhinged. And we'll just watch one of them with the arm. It was like a chop. We'll watch this gem outside. If anybody wants to call in, I see more people are watching now. 978-560-3155. Including you, Jules. Call in, Jules. 978-560-3155. Call in, Jules. You're in timeout. You can call in.
There he is.
I just like this at the end. I just want to show this last incident because this is I had no problem with Grant asking questions to Karen Reed. I had no problems with Tom and Chrissy shouting them down. They all have free speech. They can do that. I think Grant was a little rude. I think he knocked into, cut off some people to get there. But whatever. This though, just look at the body language. I turned off the volume so we don't hear any of the swearing. Just watch the body language. Now, granted, Chrissy and Tom look like they're following Grant, which I wouldn't suggest. But at a certain point, look at these arms. I don't know. To me, that's just a small part of it. I agree. I think that they're looking unhinged right now. Yeah. Like someone said, like I just showed a very small portion. I don't want to go overkill on Grant tonight. People were already bringing him up. I think I kind of brought him up, and you can't help but ignore it. I mean, his actions to Chrissy, especially a woman. Scully Wonka says he was waving his hand in her face sometimes with a bottle. I mean, it was over. It was like a chop. I couldn't believe it didn't actually land. If you intimidate somebody like that, that can be considered a criminal assault. I think everyone needs to calm down in those situations. I would advise in the future, both sides, take it down a little bit. You don't want to get charged either side for something stupid, but Grant, buddy, like keep your hands down, dude. You got long arms. I thought I had long arms. They used to call me Rope Man because I would rope him in wrestling. That dude's got some long arms. Keep those arms to yourself, buddy. If anyone wants to call in, we'll take a call right now. 978-560-3155. Don't call me later. It's 8:18 p.m. right now, Eastern time. Don't be calling me at 9:30 or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Call me now. That's what always happens. I get the calls later. People listen on the replay. I love you, replay people. I love you. I do. But if you're watching live and you've been trying to get through, but the phone lines are always busy. This is the night. It was unannounced. I didn't tell anyone I was going to do this with the Karen Reed tonight. So you can call in. No one is prepared for this. And I think there's a lot of competition. A lot of people have been promoting their shows. If I was a grifter, I'd be promoting. I was going to be on tonight. I don't care about that stuff. I just want to do a good show that I'm happy with. And I feel like if I'm helping, that's my key. 978-560-3155. Maybe you think Karen Reed is guilty. Call in. Open phone lines. I'm waiting. All right, I guess I'm going to hang it up tonight. Maybe I don't know. We could play some more video. We will be back on the next select board meeting. We're going to have some guests lined up upcoming. We got a lot planned, but I'm going to take my time. I'm not doing shows every night. I'm not going as hard as as I did probably in December or January. And I'm just sticking to what I said. We're going to keep watching what's going on in court because that's the most important thing. Some things did happen today. You've heard them referenced in other places about and I still don't understand this about the DNA of the canine. I know some journalists hopefully are asking questions and going to cover that in the mainstream, maybe the TV guys, the local TV. Maybe they'll actually do some work because we all want to know what's going on with that canine thing. What does that mean that they don't, you know what I'm talking about? Because both sides, that's the thing right now. Everyone's looking for like the honest broker who can tell you what's going on straight. It's tough to know because if you listen to either side, it's just you get it one way. And it's the opposite of the other side. I think it all is going to come down to the feds. What do the feds really have? That's what we're waiting for. I think it looks good. Let's see what happens. Okay, here's a comment. No disrespect to Grant, but what he did was just like Turtle Boy. So he shouldn't attack what's happening to Turtle Boy. That's exactly the point. These people are hypocrites. It's like Kim Napoli, not Kim Nap, Kimberly Fair, Andy Dufresne, all those. She's got like 100 troll accounts. She trolls these women from Georgetown. She harasses the crap out of them and then pretends she's the victim. She's done the same thing to us. She's created like all these videos and memes and stuff, always with me making fun that I'm a medical cannabis patient. This week she's complaining that the turtle riders are picking on Grant because he uses cannabis on camera, which you don't see me do. Like I'm not always puffing on weed on camera. I don't do that. But Grant does it. And now she says it's okay. Now after making fun of me for doing, medical cannabis, she says it's okay that Grant is constantly just one after another chain smoking the weed when he does shows. I mean, these people are hypocrites. That's the whole thing. And it's just about one thing and one thing only. They hate a Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy made fun of them. And I get it. Turtle Boy kind of threw a little glance and glow at us. He could come back at us. I get it. But if he does, I'm not going to be mad at Turtle Boy for the rest of my life. And especially if it was something that, I can't blame the guy over. All my shit that I went through, I look back at it. I said, the only one that has a right to be bad actually is Turtle Boy. All right, let's read another comment. They didn't take tissue samples of the arm, so they have nothing to test for canine DNA. But what about the clothing? That's what I heard. They could get something from the clothing. I want to see the TV guys look into that one. What's really going on there? And I mean, the big thing for us is we're waiting. This is going to be huge. February 26th is the next hearing, and it's going to be huge because now this is the one. We thought it was going to be today, actually, but it's weird how they try to cancel it, that they had it, because we thought we were going to hear today. The defenses, they got 3 things they're putting on the table that they've already filed. They want to remove the DA. They want to sanction the DA. They want to dismiss the charges. That's going to be heard February 26th. Lally has to have a response in, or his assistant there has to have a response in basically this next week. And it sounds like the feds are probably going to weigh in. So February 26th can't come soon enough. And Turtle Boy is probably getting out of jail very soon. Turtle Boy derangement syndrome is a powerful mental condition. Can you imagine, too, like what's going to happen if Karen Reed is found innocent with these Turtle Boy derangement syndrome people? Like also have accomplished, if that happens, is they just made them like way bigger. That's what's so dumb about them. Not strategic long-term thinkers, that's for sure. All right, I think I'm going to hang it up tonight. I'm losing my voice. I need some water. Good water. No calls tonight. Jules didn't want to call me. They still have received the clothing to even try to get the DNA samples. Okay. It's interesting. It almost seems like they know they don't need it. Have a good night. Yeah, you have a good night too, Scully Wonka. Appreciate the comments. Please like, subscribe. We're trying to get to 6,000 now on YouTube, especially. Share the video. All right, I'll see everyone. You have a great weekend. I'm looking forward to this weekend.